I went for 3 years to Cal State Fullerton, and one of the many things I learned in art school was that at that time, it wasn't important to have a degree. My professors told me that, so I said, oh, well, then I don't have to graduate. I'm going to New York. So I went to school just for knowledge, not for credentials. I was encouraged by my teachers and fellow students that my work was already good enough for galleries. So I took them at face value, and one day got in my parents' car and drove out to Hollywood. And the first gallery I was attracted to, and I walked in with my drawing, but I was actually accepted into the gallery, walking in off the street cold with my drawings. It just basically never happens, but it happened to me. Right. I didn't know that most artists get rejected hundreds of times after they walk in through the front door of a gallery to try to get into the gallery. I didn't realize that. Rule number one, make great art. I could add to that, which would be make great art that other people really want to own. That it helps if people really want your stuff and are willing to pay money for it. And one way you can make sure that's happening is you can take surveys. I highly recommend take your 10 of your paintings and put them on Facebook or send out an email blast asking a lot of your friends to number the paintings and say, please choose your favorite 3 out of these 10 paintings. And you'll be amazed at how 1 or 2 of the paintings are going to come in first place very often. Number 2, live in New York. If you're not willing to live in New York, you have to visit New York during the high season of the art world. You'll have a much easier time if you spend a lot of time in New York. If you can only spend 4 months of the year in New York, they should be October, November, and April and May, when the weather is great and when the art world is at fever pitch in activity. Just about everyone I know in the art world that's actually a participant would agree with this. That New York is still unquestionably the art world capital of contemporary art. Number 3, circulate. 99% of every successful artist in the world is socially active in the art world, and throughout history too. Certainly Caravaggio hung out with the powers that were in his day. Even Van Gogh knew all of the famous artists in Paris. He didn't get very far while he was alive, but he was certainly part of the scene. Number 4 is be professional. Number 5, have a story. One way or another, you have to give the writers material. Otherwise, you'll be boring, and they won't write about you. Writers for magazines, newspapers, blogs, the ones that get paid to write, they would prefer to get paid without having to do too much work. It's human nature to want to get free stuff, to do things the easy way, to have someone else do your work for you, and you get all the fame and the glory. So if you can do the writer's job for them, they're going to love you for it, because and they're going to write about you, or they'll just basically rehash what you've written and put their name on it, and it's going to help promote you, and it's going to help get them another small paycheck for being an underpaid writer, which most writers are, especially art writers. Number 6 is get other people to work for you. When I say get other people to work for you, I mean also not necessarily to produce your artwork, but to promote you, to talk about you, to get your friends enthusiastic, and to get them to invite their friends to your events. And enthusiasm is contagious. And if you're enthusiastic about what you do, and if you circulate, and your friends and art world connections see your enthusiasm, they'll pick up on it and share it with others. And in that way, they're working for you. there are expressions used like, oh, he's giving me a show, referring to a dealer, or did so-and-so give you a show? I don't believe that's the way, I don't think that's healthy. I think it's the artist who gives the gallery the show. And the dealer, the art gallery is a store, and the artist is a supplier. So it's not healthy to let the store owner behave like a paternal figure to the artist. And in the art world, people use expressions like, oh, this dealer nourished another artist. That's wrong. It's the other way around. The artist is the boss. So the real test is getting that 16th and 17th show. And the way to do that is to realize that these dealers are not your parents. They're store owners. And you can't just have one store selling your stuff. 10 isn't even enough. 20 or 30, now I'm going to start being impressed. If you have like 2 or 3 dealers in New York, maybe one for the paintings, another for the prints, and then another one for the sculptures, then you need a dealer in Los Angeles, one in Chicago, Boston, Florida, and then you have to have all your European dealers. Then you're starting to talk career. When you have your studio with your files, your secretary, if you're a true believer who thinks that you have to do every brush stroke yourself, then that's fine. But at least have someone stretch the canvas and clean the brushes, because you need time to go to the art parties and have a great time with critics, curators, collectors, and the art scene. Currently, I make about 5,000 paintings a year, and most of them are sold fairly shortly after I make them. There have been some years where I've made 1,000 paintings a year. I've had numerous sales which were 100 paintings at a time to one dealer, or even 130 paintings. Once someone bought 135 paintings in one shot and paid all at once. As I said earlier, obviously the dealers get a generous discount. Sometimes I sell them at 20% of the retail value. But I'm happy to do that because they get a great deal, so they have more motivation to push because they're going to make a bigger profit. Take the risk themselves of consigning the work to other dealers at a 50-50 split. So they might buy them from me for 20% of the retail price. Then they consign them to dealers at 50-50, and they make 30% theoretically without doing any work. They just have to hope that they can collect the money once the work is sold. I personally believe that it's 100% impossible to do an artwork all by yourself. If you did that, you'd have to weave the canvas, grind the pigments, and you'd have to be the lamb that produced the wool to make the canvas or something. Art, like life, is a collaboration. There's no escaping. In the end, I do think that my personality is in my work a lot, maybe even more than when I, quote unquote, did it all by myself, when I was an aspiring comic book artist, when my dream was to draw for Marvel. Thankfully, I didn't succeed at that because the fine art world was a lot more fun because there was more freedom, and here I am giving webinars on how to become a rich and famous artist.